So do you think you can't gonna make it to the VLSI industry if you just have done your BTech? And what if you are doing your BTech from a not so well known college? I did a poll on my LinkedIn account and here is the result. So to make this result more clear to you, I'm gonna bring out to you conversation with me and Mayank Gupta. So Mayank Gupta has done his BTech from a third tier college and straight after his BTech he landed into a VLSI startup. We have extensive discussion about all the off-campus opportunity to convert a job, to convert a internship opportunity, all the technique he follow, all the resources he know, and why he use GitHub to document all his project, and do GitHub really give any benefit to an electronics engineer? What's the difference between embedded system and VLSI? What are their opportunity? You must watch this video to get the motivation and to get the energy same as our Mayank Gupta. So without further delay, let's start today's video. And before that, please help this guy. Hey, hi Mayank. So welcome to our channel whyRD. Yeah. So how are you?
I'm fine. I actually just finished an exam and just rushed right over here so that I can give this interview. Nervous, excited, so it's a mixed feeling.
So first of all, like my first question, and that is like currently you are already placed in a VLSI company, right? So tell me, like, how is the opportunity for VLSI in your campus? And yeah, what is the name of your college first?
So the name of my college is Institute of Engineering Technology. It's the engineering discipline of the Devi Ahilya University. It's a central university at Madhya Pradesh. So coming to the placement part, that was the main question. So the college is pretty good in terms of that. There are a lot of IT companies and there are some VLSI companies. Although the domain might be restricted to what the culture normally is, we see a lot of digital openings in contrast to analog or mixed signal openings. So we do have a couple VLSI companies. There's Serium Systems. I think in the past there was also Sankalp. I'm not sure if they're coming again. But just service-based companies, not any specific companies, but they come for RTL openings and embedded system openings. But primarily it's IT recruiters. So there's like 90-10 or even 95 or 5. That's the kind of ratio that I'm seeing in my college. It's a pretty bad. But kind of acceptable. If someone's looking for digital, they have some openings, like 5 openings. So there's a competition, but still, when you see 19 companies of one domain, a single company of another, it's pretty heartbreaking, right? You're interested in that field and you don't see a lot of companies in that. So that's the kind of culture I'm seeing over here.
Yeah. Actually, the same experience I also felt during my BTech colleges. So tell me, like many of your batchmates, right? They would be preparing for IT job. They are coding hard code. They are maybe solving LaTeX code or something else. So like how you motivate yourself to keep on continuing with electronics subjects only? Like how you get the motivation?
Honestly, it is hard to keep yourself motivated, seeing everyone around you is getting placed in a software firm. They're doing competitive programming. They're getting better at algorithms while you're just sitting there with your transistors trying to think, why is it not working the same way it was before? Technology changes, parameter changes, everything. So it's hard. But to motivate yourself, it just have to be like, you'll have to be thirsty for it, right? If you have the thirst to grow, you'll move on. It's, I think, the same for the IT guys as well. Even though there are a lot of job openings, but they still are stringent in picking up who they're actually going to recruit. So they are motivating themselves looking at not the dollar figure, but actually the skills, the same skills or maybe the zeal they feel when they program something, they solve one question. It's same for us. We build circuits for that. We try to hand calculate something, and if the values match our simulation, the happiness is unmatched. And that's the same thing that motivated me. I'll calculate something, I'll try to see why it's not matching, then I'll just drive myself through it. I'll just do anything to find why my numbers are not the same. And that just helped me. One step, another step. It was not 0 to 100, it's not like a linear process. I just go from 0 to 100 in a single step. It took me years, probably months, and eventually I reached there. But it was difficult. It was very difficult.
Yeah. So a short question, like if I tell you right now, like we have many subjects in electronics, right? So what is your hold on those subjects, those concepts? Like it is average, above average or below average right now?
I think it's above average, but not best.
Okay.
Sometimes I used to think that I was really good on that, but during interviews I was shown, I'm not the best.
Yeah, for me, like just after my BTech, it was below average. And the main
Okay.
reason and the main reason is that actually, like in electronics, we might, like in IT section, like if we go for core computer science, I agree they have
Mhm.
many concepts there. They have compiler, they have algorithm, they need to learn a
Yeah.
lot. But only coding part, for like for service
Mhm.
based company IT, you just need to have a logical mind, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't need to have any prerequisite of knowledge, but in
Hmm.
electronics we have many prerequisite, and the problem is with me that
Exactly.
in my, yeah, in my first second year I was not at all interested. Like I was interested in electronics given my attention to those subjects. So my question is that, like, how you started, like if roughly you want to
Hmm.
encapsulate your 4 year, then how you started and how you finished or going to finish your BTech right now?
I would be finishing my BTech in a month. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a good question actually. Considering I have actually moved through a lot of technologies, to be honest. Initially, I was interested in embedded systems. So I used to
Mm-hmm.
program with microcontrollers, design PCBs, and all those things. And that was the thing I did till second year. For that, you'll also have to be good at programming because microcontroller programming is essentially C programming or Python programming. So I used to do Python programming initially. I had a good hacker rank profile and those things. By the time second year ended, that's when my actual interest in VLSI and core electronics subject actually started. So I started learning signal system and all those subjects again. You might not think about it, but those subjects are actually really important. In
Mm-hmm.
interviews, they focus so much on signal system, basic electronics, analog electronics, digital electronics that you sometimes forget that why was I studying MOSFETs? That these were the things that are in core focus. So initially it was software, then I moved to embedded systems, then I started focusing on VLSI. And currently I've narrowed down on VLSI, so I'm currently into analog, more into
Mm-hmm.
analog. I have also tried digital, but honestly it was very boring because it turned into a software job essentially because you have to program a lot. So that's how it encapsulated three different technologies, three different streams, but finally narrowing down it to one.
You have mentioned three things: embedded system, digital, analog. So
Yeah.
first question is, what is your mind about embedded system versus VLSI? Like about scopes. Do you have any your view about this thing?
I definitely do. Embedded system probably is easier to get in. I had an embedded system internship back in my third year. So I would say there are much more opportunities in embedded system. And down the line, you could get even better at that, but you have to expand yourself. You can't just stay at embedded system that is just designing PCBs or just working with microcontrollers. You have to go above that. That is machine learning and all that. So there is scope in that. Whilst in VLSI, you'll have to be specific. When you go for analog, when you go for digital, even the learning curve itself is pretty steep. It would go like very steep till a very particular high height. And in terms of opportunities, I would say there might be same down the line when you have some span of experience, let's say 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But initially, there are much more opportunities in embedded in contrast to VLSI, since VLSI do not hire freshers that easily, especially in bachelors. Even now, if you're interning for bachelors, you might get into in a startup. Like I'm currently in a startup, but it's a well-established startup now. You might get into a startup quite easier than established company. Whilst in embedded, it might be easier to get in an established company.
We have analog and digital, right? You are interested
Hmm.
in analog, but you also know many things about digital. So during your interview, just tell us that does they only ask you question about analog, if it is an analog profile or mix of both things?
So while getting this job, in this
Mhm.
particular interview, the questions were primarily focused on basic electronics and semiconductor devices. So to me in particular, there were no digital design questions. So I did not have any flip flops. I did not have any logic circuits, 5 volt or discrete logic circuit. Mine was primarily focused upon analog. So there was filters, oscillators, there was simple diode circuit. There was circuit that consists of just one capacitor, and you have to analyze it whole, discussing everything what happens. But I've also given different interviews. Like I had an interview at Micron. It's a pretty old story, but during that it was an analog profile interview. But there were questions from digital as well. So I think it's
Okay.
more about MOSFETs for them. But in some profiles, they would just focus on analog, whilst in others, they would just mix them.
Yeah, so that means like many of us have the like strategy, okay, let's prepare only digital, analog, I don't know anything, or vice versa. So I think their strategy is not so correct, right?
Their strategy is actually pretty wrong, because most of the time they won't question you on MOSFETs. They would start with diodes. They would start with resistors. They would start with capacitors. And then you would just, in retrospect, start thinking, okay, this was in my gate. Okay, this was in my second semester. So I think those are the subjects you should focus on: signal system, network theory, basic electronics, control system, analog electronics. These 5 subjects are the core motive of those interviews.
Okay, so from where we should learn them things? Like, should we only depend on our professors, or do you have some other like sources from where you learn those courses?
Well, I used to depend upon books. I used to love reading books. I used to read them page by page like a novel, just be engrossed in them, finish them whole. I've completed Boylsted. I've completed a couple books of signal system. It is time consuming, of course, while everyone is going off their way. This professor takes 2-hour lectures, subject is done. But book would take you a whole day. But I think that would take you much further ahead in life, if I can be philosophical about that. But that is necessary. That's the way things would be. I think books are a better source than lectures. Of course, lectures are important. So you can take some surface level information from lectures and then go deeper with the books.
Okay, so I know this is not a correct terminology like third tier college, second tier college, but yet if I like ask you in which tier your college is, like according to you?
Oh, definitely a third tier college.
Okay, great. So being from a third tier college and getting a job in VLSI directly after your BTech. Okay, so do you feel that if we get into third tier, there is some disadvantage than getting into first tier or second tier colleges because you got a job? So still, do you feel there are some disadvantage, or if then what are those?
I probably could be biased, but actually I had some good mentors in my college, which were actually focused on and excited about VLSI as a field. So they trained me well, they gave me a direction. So is there a disadvantage? Yes, if you are not able to find right mentors and everything. But in reality, a college should not define you. Of course, IITs would give you better opportunities and IITs would give you better opportunities. BITs have better opportunities. But if you're just a failure in yourself, you're not working hard, you're just being lazy, you're sharp and lazy. You're sharp, you understand things, but you're lazy. So you're not going to use your opportunities anyway. So you would end up probably worse than that. So the best strategy is that no matter what your college is, start exploring. Read about the subject. NPTEL is free. There are several resources that are free. Contacting a professor is free. You might have to send 10 emails, 15 emails, but he might respond once. You can just explore, just drop the shame. Many people are hesitant, many people are shameful that, oh no, I can't do that, I'm embarrassed to do it, but just do it. You're gonna regret it later in life, so it's better you drop that email. Better you send that message right now. It's just about finding the right mentors, it's just about studying the right things. In the end, all the opportunities that I was able to get, whether that be Open5, Sci5, or the company that I'm right now, I explored that off campus, right? So those were open to everyone. It's not like there were just doors that were open for me. They was open to everyone. So you just have to explore. College should not define you. The only thing that should define is how hard you're working on that.
So now if any person who is in his third year or second year or fourth year, then how they should explore those things? Like what resource we have to explore to those off-campus opportunity, to contact to professor, like what resource you have?
The resources I use were primarily LinkedIn. And I used to stalk the professor's profile on IIT. So that was another resource I had. And third one was that I had some good teachers, so I would just bug them. Please make some contacts.
Probably many of during BTech, many of people, probably me also, are stalking girls, but you were stalking professor. And actually
I did that too.
You are in public platform, okay. Okay, but this is a very nice terminology, stalking your professor. Perfect. I think we need to do this thing, because internet is so much like penetrated to our life thanks to Geo and then now Airtel, everything. Like we have everything in
Exactly.
our hand, right? And you rightly mentioned NPTL is like really gold mine. I learned many things from NPTL. Like
Yeah.
I did my MTech from IIT Delhi. So many would say, okay, you are from IIT Delhi, you don't need any other sources. But still, I have my most most important subject, which is most VLSI. I did it from NPTL, IIT Madras course. So
I
I
know that
think
subject. I know that
yeah,
subject.
yeah. So your like answer is perfectly true that yeah, college don't define you and resources are available. It's like not like nobody will close
Exactly.
NPTL. You are from third year, no, we will not don't give you any
Yeah.
access to NPTL. Okay. So now
Exactly.
most
So many
yeah,
books are available as PDF. I mean, you don't even have to research for that as well. You just
yeah.
search for them. A single click, you get that.
Yes, yes. So now most interesting question and the question which I'm waiting for actually, like I know you from that post from LinkedIn where and actually in my last video I have shared that whole GitHub repository with my audience,
Oh
like
boy.
how how you are like initiating the things because initiating things is the most important. Then we can go on. So my main question is
Yeah.
that being an electronic student, for me also, I never explored GitHub in my BTech for sure. During my IT job, I have taken one IT job. I explored GitHub for sure. But as an electronics engineer, I never explored GitHub. So how do you know this thing? Like, okay, we can like upload our resources to GitHub also. And does it given you some additional benefit compared to your other batchmate?
The main reason for me exploring GitHub is that I have a brother who is primarily into software and software development in general. So he used to use GitHub a lot, and to me it was just a fascinating thing. In the first year, as I mentioned, I have explored software field, so I did know about GitHub version control system and how those things work. Eventually, when I landed into VLSI, Kunal Ghosh.
Probably not.
Kunal Ghosh
Maybe,
actually he owns a
yeah.
company, VSD,
Mhm.
VLSI Design System.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I
he
know. Mhm.
Yeah, you might have heard about him. So
Yes,
he
yes.
does many workshops and open webinars, free webinars. Those are free webinars as well. So in them, he would always emphasize the importance of having a good resume. And in
Mhm.
VLSI, sometimes you can't really show how much skilled you are just by mentioning something in your projects. Okay,
Mhm.
I've made an OPAM. Okay, so what? Did you copy? There's no answer to that, right? How would you prove it?
Yes,
So
yes.
he emphasized the importance of having a GitHub repo. And I was like, oh, so this is something that actually happens. So I took some inspiration from that. I checked the GitHub repositories he used to make, and then I started making my own. I already know how to use GitHub, so I just improved myself in that. I learned the whole language on it. It's not exactly a language, but command line interface of it, and explored more about it. It has helped me. It has helped me understand how the open source PDK, the Starwater 130 technology works. And the main important part was not being good at open source tools, but actually being good at the flow. How you design
Mhm.
something. You go from schematic to layout to post layout to simulation to verification to GDSI. And that's something that Git has helped me because I was throwing something out in the public. So I had to make sure it was good. I had to make sure my results were reciprocable. My results were something that I can vouch for and that you can do
Perfect.
them on your own. So that way, I was actually always focused on making them perfect. Always focused on learning new things. If I'm explaining something, it has to be true. I don't want someone else, calling me out that you're doing something wrong. So it has helped me. It
Yeah.
has helped me being more aware of the subject, learning things more and exploring. I think it's pretty much the same for you on YouTube. When you make a video, you research a lot and you'll have
Yes,
to
yes,
be
yes.
true to that. It's the
Yeah, yeah,
same on GitHub
perfect.
as well.
Yeah, yeah. This is actually a motivation, right? You need to publish something that should be perfect. Otherwise, you might
Exactly.
be a little lethargic. Okay, let do something
Yeah,
jugaad. But
yeah.
if you are publishing, this need to be like perfect. Okay, your
Yeah, because it's out in
communications.
the open.
Yeah. My next question is your communication is perfect, better than me.
Thank you.
Your English your English is really very good. So do you think that
Okay.
do you think that communication also have some work to do getting a job in VLSI? Yeah.
Actually, it is. The thing is, you might
Mhm.
not know all the answers, but if you're able to, show that you have some learning aptitude and your language, the
Mhm.
way you present yourself, the way you communicate to the other, if it is confident enough, if you show that,
Mhm.
okay, even if I'm saying wrong, I'm not, shameful or embarrassed to accept it. You just have to be confident. You have to be clear how you speak. That also helps you a lot. Sometimes the interviewer just sees, okay, he might not know all the answers, but he can talk to me well. He can show that, okay, I'm ready to learn. He can show that I'm ready to accept my mistakes. He can show that, okay, I'm ready to speak to you, like, okay, we are having a conversation. That helps. That actually creates an impact. And it's not just true for VLSI. I think it's true for any position. You might be going for an IT job, mechanical engineer, CAD job, anything. This is true. So communication is important. You should work on that. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm finding out, like, for me, I'm not good at grammar, okay, and I don't give a shit about grammar during speaking, like anything. So do you think,
Me
like,
neither.
if we, yeah, if we think about grammar, then I think it is little like flow sometimes got less restricted if we think about grammar. Okay, that's a nice actually
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, yeah. But my main question is that, like, you mentioned some open webinar of that Kunal Ghosh, right? So how do you know about those open source or open like free webinar? From where you got those information?
Short answer is explore. To expand on that, it's again stalking. You just have to stalk the person responsible behind it. So I'm following Kunal Ghosh on basically all the platforms he's in. Other than that, I am constantly on a look for whatever's hot in VLSI. Will that be a new technology? Will that be a new experiment? Some research papers that are coming out. So when you explore that, you know about more people. Kunal Ghosh is just one of them, right? So there are so many people involved in VLSI that are trying to make an impact. So you start searching about them. You follow them on LinkedIn. You follow them on Slack. Slack is another like channel. It's WhatsApp. There's Telegram. There's so many social media platforms, and in there they share those links. And that is how you get to know about it. Okay, there's a webinar this Saturday. Okay, there's a webinar this Sunday. Like to mention one of them, I think there's a webinar soon on 17th. It's by Open Source FPGA Corporation. It's about AI in FPGAs. That is how to use AI and machine learning by developing hardware for analog circuit, digital circuits. And even though, there's one more thing that people are much more fixated on how important certificates are. That's bullshit. Certificates is not going to do anything for you. You just need to attend the webinar. You just need to learn what things are happening. Those things would help you. When you're giving an interview, mention at random, okay, I actually attended a webinar that mentioned these things. And that would make an impact. You just need to know. You just need to learn. You don't have to have a certificate to show that. Nobody's asking for that. So just explore, stalk people. I'm actually promoting stalking on a public platform. I hope I'm not sued for it. But stalk people and look for new links and, just follow them. Follow the right people. We all follow Instagram models, so just follow the right people for that.
Yeah, perfect. And about a certificate, like in my current company, I have still not uploaded my MTech certificate. Just an example.
That's amazing.
Okay, so stalking people you do on Facebook, LinkedIn, then Instagram.
Mostly LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook right now.
Yeah, actually, my like to my audience, I always tell them, don't like the way you are using Facebook, stop it, and that same way use your LinkedIn. And currently I'm doing that only. Yeah, my primary social media network is LinkedIn only. Instagram is there to manifest sometime, but yeah, LinkedIn is my primary. And I think, for example, for my last video, which will be published today, I was searching for 130 nanometer that PDK, and the easiest resource is to search on LinkedIn the tag, and I got many posts, many projects, many resources, and I made my full video on that. So yeah, LinkedIn is really a great tool, like for us, for all the professional people. So tell us about, like, many of my audience ask me about like how to get internship. They are from top tier also, and sometimes they are from third tier colleges also. So how to get internship? Like, tell me your strategy.
That's a very simple thing, and I think it's something that everyone is aware of. Is just apply. Apply to tens of openings, 20s of openings. The thing is, it's again LinkedIn, but there are also companies' websites as well. You can target a particular company, but I would say target a particular role. If you think you're going to intern as a technical engineer, focus on the whole electronics aspect. If you think you want to intern as an analog design engineer, focus on the CMOS basics, focus on electronic basics and everything. Digital, you just have to better your scripting skills. That is Verilog and VHDL, or if any other system Verilog languages have. So first prepare on that. After that, search for all the roles that are open for it, whether that be intern role, entry level roles, any kind of role. Apply to each and every one of them. If there are 10 roles, 20 roles, 50 roles, don't care. Apply to each and every one of them. Another thing is, make sure your resumes are ATS compliant. ATS is an application tracking system. I think you should be aware of that most companies use it. They don't read resumes by hand.
Yes.
So just make a single page resume, simple. You don't have to make it fancy, and apply to each and every one of them. You might get some calls back to prepare for those interviews, and that way, you can actually finish actually interview and get more internships in that. I actually got all my internships that way. I asked HRs on LinkedIn. That's also another way that you should do. You can just text HRs. Do you have any openings? You can apply on the company website. You can apply using LinkedIn. Just don't apply to one position. Apply to tens of positions. You don't know you would be getting the same thing. That's the best advice I can give you.
Okay. So you are also experienced in some industry level EDA tool, right? And also you are working on open source EDA tool. So if I tell you, what's the difference between these two? Like roughly.
I think it's first thing is the restrictions. When you're working with industry grade tools, if you are in a company, you can't really tamper a lot with it. Since I'm working in a company and they have tabs with Cadence and all the tools of them are Cadence. If you're working in some other company, there would be Synopsys tools, Metagraphics tools. There are several companies in that. So there are restrictions. You can't copy these things, you can't extract these things, you can't change these things, you can't download these things. Those are annoying, especially when you're coming from open source tools. In open source, it's yours. You get to experiment everything. You get to break the tool, you get to make the tool, you get to install it, you get to build it from source. That is an excitement you can never get from somewhere else. Because industry EDA such someone else installed it for you, so it did not get the full experience of rectifying little things, doing Linux programming for that, Bash skills development. Where in OpenSea you get to learn Linux, you get to learn Bash, you get to change things, you get to extract things. So that tinkering, the attitude that you develop, okay, I can tinker with it. I am the owner of my own a similar content. I think I paraphrased it wrong, but I am my own owner. So that thing that separates open source from a closed source development. But there are some limitations as well. Open source sometimes do not have very good documentations. That is pretty difficult. When I started with Skyward 130, the documentation was so scarce, it was very difficult to even install that thing. It took me a week to just get the tools up and running. But it was exciting. I got to rectify everything on my own, but it was difficult. Well, if it was a closed source tool, I would just copy those things, I'll install it, I'll copy the source file, done. It started. I have an excellent community support and everything. But I still suggest you should always work on open source things, because that way you get to handle things in a way that you would never get the experience in industry.
Right. And few of you, we have the myths like open source tool don't have so much capability as of industry tool. So as a beginner, as a fresher, is it true?
Not, I mean, it depends. I mean, of course, there are some limitations. If in context of PCB design, there's a tool known as KiCad. I know it's out of context, but I always love to give this example because industry uses Altium design some very professional tools. But in this day and age, that is in 2021, KiCad is on level with industry tools. It can easily go head and shoulders above them. And it's very same with open source too. There are limitations, yes. But tell me, are you really going to push it that far? As a beginner, you're not going to create a 84-bit ADC, a Sigma Delta modulator that is tens of tiers long, 15 layers apart. You might one day, but as a beginner, you're not going to do that. So I don't think so. Just because it has limitations to stop yourself from exploring those things. Just dive in. In the end, you're just learning something.
Yeah.
There are limitations, but I've never even pushed it that far.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know that Google have a project like through which we can send our chip fabrication for free, right? So do you have any plan about doing something in future, like sending your own like chip design using open tool and then sending it to Google? Do you have any plans?
Yes. Actually, I was trying to do it this year. I've made a voltage reference, 100 millivolt voltage reference with an appreciable temperature coefficient.
And to my surprise, and maybe to all my audience surprise, I don't know that thing 1 week before. Okay. Actually, like I'm a fortunate kid. If you tell me in like academic, I'm a fortunate kid. I never used any open tool. I got in my BTech, I got Cadence, but I never used. And then I want to use, but I went to IT industry. And after getting into MTech, I started learning Cadence. Okay, so I am really a fortunate kid. But to like to all the people, I think if you are not fortunate also, then also we have this much facility, like for free you can
Exactly.
fabricate your chip, and fabricating your chip will cost you around 10 to 12 lakh for like 3x3
Easily.
millimeter. Yeah, so really we need to explore and see. Our Mayank, he is doing BTech only, and he know so much thing. So really, like
And I started
I'm feeling,
exploring in third year, so
yeah, like I'm feeling really great that I invited you to my channel. Like this is the first interview we are doing in our channel, and that was so like good, like going good. So we are at the end of our interview. So like last minute, what you want to tell to our audience? Like what should be your like few sentence advice to them?
well, I'm a very fresh in the industry, so please take my advice with a grain of salt. But still, all the things that have worked for me, I can just tell you that keep exploring. Use LinkedIn as the main motivation for your social media time travel. So you just expend most of your time on LinkedIn, explore things, follow all the HRs, stalk everyone. Again, stalking. So spend most of your time on that. Research about things. If you're interested about something, keep exploring. Read IEEE papers. Look for what's new in that. What's trending in VLSI. Uh, I'm from VLSI, so I'll speak for that. Other than that, explore for tools. I've always been exploring tools, even though I had cadence tools in my college, but they was very restricted. You can only use it for 1 hour a day, only 2 people. I don't like that. So I started exploring on my own. Trust freeware software, trust open source software, learn about things, because the things that you learn would not change just because the platform changed. The things that you're developing, if you make an op-amp in an open source tool, the only thing that would change in a closed source is the technology node. The calculations you did, the principles you applied, everything is the same. Ease of access is different, but we won't talk about that. Open source always has had a pretty bad ease of access sometimes. But keep exploring. Those things will teach you something. And yeah, you're still in your bachelor's. You don't have to divide yourself as only masters that help you. No. The amount of knowledge that you gain, that would help you. That would help you move forward. That would help you keep moving forward. With a closed mentality, you would be stuck even after a master's or a PhD. So just keep exploring. I would always say exploring. Yeah, keep exploring and stalking.
Yeah. Do you have any do you have any like do you want to do masters, like any thought about that in future?
Actually, I had plans of doing masters, but I realized that even if you do masters, even in masters, I'm not sure you'll have to rectify me on that. But you have so many subjects. So even there, you have to pick a direction for your own. You're taking 5 subjects in the first semester. Okay, digital is fine, analog is fine, RF is fine, MEMS is also good. Which direction should I go at? But if you get some experience prior to masters, you have a direction.
Perfect,
When you go
perfect.
to master, okay, I'm gonna focus on analog. Okay, RF is better for me. I'm taking subjects about RF. So some of that time is saved for you, and you get to do masters with a very clear mindset. Okay, I'm going to masters. This would be my dissertation. This would be my thesis. You know those things. But if you're just going masters with a straight mind, that would help as well. I'm not saying that it would not help, but I still think getting a job and then doing a master is a far more helpful.
You said like stop people, stop people. So do you mind if my audience start stalking you in LinkedIn?
Well, I think I'm calling for that. I've already said so much about stalking. I'm going to be the first target. Yeah,
Okay,
please
okay.
do.
So you guys all follow him and like don't disturb him too much. But yeah, if you face something like you are installing something open tool, you got some issue and you are not getting any other resources, then lastly ask him, because if you all ask him, he would be like he also have his work, right? It was a fun to talk with you, really. Like it's not like I am doing any formality. It is really a fun to talk with you, and I'm sure my audience would be like they would be love to like hear from you in future also, in LinkedIn, in other social media, and probably in my channel again, like for some other topic in future. If we are face to face, I should have given a token of love or something from on behalf of my audience. So let's see if we can leverage the internet to send you something from on behalf of on behalf of all my audience, because they would be really getting benefited from this video. And my audience, you just click like button right now and I will
Like,
send your,
subscribe to him.
yeah, and I'll send everything to this thing to his address soon. Yeah. Okay, man, thanks a lot for joining us, and wish you a best of luck to your BTech final year, to your new job, and to your future jobs. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing day, and whatever you're doing, just have fun in that.